Balik po tayo dito sa programang Kwentuhang Pets at iba pa ng DZUP 1602 AM. At kasama po natin dito sa studio si Miss Joy Uy, isang certified professional dog trainer na nag-training sa International Academy of Canine Trainers sa Canada. At ini-explain niya po sa atin kung ano ba yung mga aso na babagay sa isang indoor lifestyle. No? Kung kayo yung napakahilig sa aso pero nakatira lang kayo sa condo o sa apartment, no? Magandang pakinggan yung mga tayo ni Miss Joy Uy. Okay, Joy, no? Yung pinag-uusapan natin kanina, ini-explain mo na yung mga kailangan i-consider, the points that you have to consider before you get a dog if you're living in an apartment. I mean, mention ka na yung exercise.
Exercise regimen that's needed for them to actually burn off the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi if they don't burn off the energy, pag uwi mo, minsan makikita mo na lang sira yung mga furniture mo. Bakit? Kasi anong gagawin nila sa loob ng apartment?
Bored.
They get bored. They have energy. Maglalaro sila sa loob.
So aside from the exercise requirements, you mentioned the size. Is this the size of the place or the dog?
The place.
Size of the place.
Kasi the size of the place should determine the size of your dog. If you have a small place, you cannot get a big dog. Because maawa ka naman sa dog. Parang you're locking him into a small cage lang.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how much he walks, there's not enough space for him to walk around.
So ano yung mga, can you give us a rundown? Ano itong mga breeds na pwede sa condominium o apartment?
Okay, before I do that, there are other things you have to consider.
Okay.
If you are in a place that have a lot of dogs and a lot of people, of course, when you're in condo, especially high-rise, you should also consider their friendliness. If they're not very friendly with people or other dogs, mahirap rin yan kasi you'll be sharing elevators with dogs and people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to consider that also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last one that I really was my priority when I was looking through the list was if they can handle the heat here in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi yung iba talaga hindi nila kaya.
Yeah.
Minsan,
What happened? Ano nangyayari sa kanila?
nagsished sila, pumapayat sila. They're not their natural self. So it's really sad to see. Sometimes I see mga Alaskan Malamute, tapos pag tinignan mo, ang payat-payat nila.
At nakakalbo.
Unless kaya mong ilagay sila sa aircon
all the
24
time.
hours
Yeah.
a day.
At saka minsan, kahit may aircon, pag mainit ang weather, hindi rin kaya ng aircon. Kasi you have to remember, sanay sila, ang temperature is what? 0 degrees, minus 2 degrees. Hindi naman umaabot ang aircon na ganyan ang temperature, di ba? At least, pag makaabot ka ng 12, 14 degrees, pwede pa siguro for an Alaskan Malamute.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the norm for them, eh.
So that's a very good argument for considering yung mga local dogs natin, no? Yung mga Ascals or Aspins, tatawag natin Aspin. Pwede ba sila, with yung character nila, pwede ba sila sa indoor lifestyle?
Yes, because especially if you get them while they're young. Kasi if you get them while they're young, tapos i-socialize mo sila, that means you let them meet other dogs, you let them meet other people when they're like 2 months, 3 months old, masasanay sila kasi they're naturally sociable naman eh.
Mm-hmm.
So, maganda pag makuha mong Aspin kasi they're not very big and they're naturally sociable, so it's not going to be a problem. And if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't really worked with Aspins, but if I'm not mistaken, they don't bark a lot either.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pretty quiet because that matters a lot. A lot of the small dogs that you have, like for example, the Chihuahuas, the Pomeranians, even my Havanese, they bark. And if you can't train them, then you're going to have problems with your neighbors. Because they're going to complain.
So, are the small dogs, like you mentioned, the Pomeranian and the
Bagay
sila?
Bagay sila if you can train them. They're really bagay. Pomeranians, Chihuahuas, Westies, they're called West Highland Terriers, Maltese, Havanese, Bichon Frise, toy
small
poodles. A lot of them are small to medium-sized dogs.
The ones that you mentioned now are all friendly types?
They're not all friendly types, but at least they can handle the heat.
Mm-hmm.
They don't require a lot of exercise. Okay, and even if they're high energy, it doesn't require a lot of exercise to burn out the energy. And most of them are pretty friendly. If they're not friendly, then they're not naman hostile towards other dogs or other people.
Meron bang small dogs na hindi bagay sa indoor living?
Right now, I can't think of anything. But I'm sure there will be if you look into it. But I'm sure whatever happens, if you raise them right, they have a better chance of of surviving indoor. Raising them right meaning you make sure they're properly socialized. You make sure that they are properly trained. Kasi here's one thing I encountered, no. My dogs are high energy and they need a lot of exercise to burn kasi they're Havanese. But the minute they step in the elevator, no matter how gulo they are outside in the hallway, the minute they step in the elevator, wala na.
Is that a
They-
result of your training?
Yes, they have to sit down. And sometimes they meet people, they're like, oh, I have to say hi. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to say hi until you ask permission. So you sit there and you ask permission first. So they have to sit and ask permission kasi you have to worry about other people who are not close to dogs, they're scared of dogs. In fact, sometimes if it's older people or people who have injuries that are walking into the elevator, I don't allow my dogs to go in with them
Mhm.
out of respect for them because I don't want my dogs to frighten them or to further injure them, right?
What about the pit bull? Because there are many issues attached to the pit bull.
Pit bulls have a really bad reputation. They're actually one of the sweetest dogs.
Yeah, I heard.
They're really malambing. Kaya lang, if you don't train them, talagang you will have such a hard time controlling them. They're super high energy and you require a lot of exercise regimen to burn off that energy. And the killer is this, when you look at a pit bull, if they're that big, that's all solid mass. They're all muscles. Very few of them are really fat. And when they can pull, even if they're 40, 50 pounds only, if they pull, they can really pull strong. So you have to train them really well. Like I've met a pit bull who was part of a family. Okay, so what the mom and dad did was they trained this pit bull really, really well because they have kids that are 4, 5, and not 2 or 1 year old.
Yeah.
And the pit bull is like running all around, but the minute they say, stop it, Gracie, sit. Sit ka agad ng pit bull. Pati sa doggy daycare, kasi nag-attend siya ng doggy daycare, minsan ang gulo-gulo niya, pero pag tinawag namin, sinabi namin, Gracie, stop it. Magsa-stop siya. Of course, it doesn't mean na hindi siya magta-try ulit.
Mm.
Pero talagang nagsa-stop siya, sanay siya, talagang trained siya.
Okay.
So there's less, actually, even in the 1940s, 1930s, they were actually the poster, they were always part of the family. So when you look at the sample of which dog is part of a family, sometimes they use pit bulls.
What about big dogs? What breeds of big dogs can adjust to indoor living?
Surprisingly, Great Dane, as I said,
Yeah.
is one of
You
them.
mentioned, yeah.
Basset Hound, although they're low on the ground, they're
Mhm.
pretty big. They
Considered
turn
by
out to
a
be
big dog,
they turn out between 40 and 60 pounds.
the fat ones.
Yeah, they're actually no, that's average weight, 40 to 60 pounds.
Mhm.
And for me, that's considered a big dog already because that's the weight of a Labrador. A Labrador can also be indoor if you have the time to exercise them
Yeah.
and you have enough space. Same as golden retrievers, they can be indoor also, but you just have to have enough space.
Kasi these are hunting dogs, no? You talk about
Yes.
basset hounds, Labrador, hunting dogs.
They are hunting dogs, and if you let them out, they can run the whole day. But if you have enough exercise for them, like my sister actually has a golden retriever, and that dog is out 2, 3 times a day. She just is relaxed in the house. She doesn't cause any problems in the house.
As long as they get to release their
Exercise,
energy,
Release their energy.
okay sila sa loob ng
And if you
bahay.
if you don't have the time to exercise them, I just hope a member of your family is there, the yaya is there, or the driver, or your neighbor. If not, bring them a doggy daycare, make them exercise your dog.
Right.
Okay?
Okay. You mentioned having Havanese, a couple of Havanese. I assume you brought them here for breeding purposes.
Yes,
Ah,
I
okay.
did.
Right. And you said that they behave pretty well when they're already in the elevator and so on. And you mentioned also dogs over barking and all. How do you train them?
How to keep quiet.
Yes.
I usually use what we call the positive reinforcement method. That means if I give a command and they follow that command, I reward them. So if I tell them to keep quiet and they keep quiet, I reward them, right? But they have to, every time I give them a command, it has to be longer and longer. So if they keep quiet for 2 seconds, I reward them. The next time I say keep quiet, they have to be quiet for a longer period, or I don't reward them.
So would you say the secret is consistency?
All the time. You have to be consistent. You have to reward, okay, and you have to make sure you use exactly the same commands also. Because if you keep changing commands, the dog won't know what you're doing.
Hey, Joy, wait, let me go back to the topic, no? What dogs are not suited for indoor living?
Definitely dogs like the German Shepherd,
What?
Doberman. Okay, Doberman, German Shepherd, they're very protective over their owners. And unless they're trained well, okay, they will act, or they're socialized, they can actually start fights over their owners, right? Okay, I'll give you an example. There was one owner who was walking out of the doggy daycare, and she was bringing her Doberman out. And she didn't. The dog didn't know me, and I started talking to the owner. Before you know it, the dog started giving me the mean look, growling, and I had to actually walk away, sit down, get a treat, and win the dog over. Imagine if that happens on a regular basis to older people, to kids, to the maids in a condo unit, or in the elevator lang. Kasi the elevator is such a small space. You always have to think of it as what will happen in an elevator, or even if you're walking out the door lang and you by chance let go of the leash and your dog starts running and he starts playing with other kids. It's hard. It's really hard when they're that size. So unless they're well trained, they should not be in a condo. However, that being said, as I said, if you have, like, even a pit bull should not even be in a condo, but if they are well trained, any one of them can live in a condo.
Now, you mentioned earlier that pwede naman, di ba, basta trained at nasanay.
And you have the time to work out their energy.
Yeah. So what about people who have these dogs already? Binigay sa kanila, pinas sa kanila, binili nila not knowing all these things. So they have these dogs already in their apartment or condo, and hindi nila na-exercise. Can they, what can they do? Dalhin nila sa daycare center? Or?
As I said, kasi a doggy daycare, the purpose of a doggy daycare, it's twofold. First one is so that the dog can socialize with other dogs. That means they get to know how to deal with other dogs.
Right.
And the reason why they have to know how to deal with other dogs is so that when they meet strange dogs, they don't always want to fight. They can actually approach them in a friendly manner. Secondly, okay, the reason why they need to know how to deal with other dogs is that's where they learn bite inhibition. Bite inhibition is they learn how hard they are allowed to bite. And other dogs will teach them that. If people cannot teach them that, then other dogs will teach them that. And this is how you avoid getting wounded by a dog. So I would rather have a dog bite me 100 times with no break in the skin than to have him bite once and then there's blood flowing out.
Wow.
So this is why you put them there. The second one is really to release all the energy so that they can go running, they can enjoy their life, and then when they get home, they can just make lambing with their owners.
Okay, so kailangan talaga, importante kilala mo yung character ng breed, no?
Yes.
Meron tayong request from our producer. Sabi niya, pa-mention naman daw ng mga top 10 breeds of dogs na bagay sa indoor living. But you were saying kanina, you don't want to call it top 10, no?
Because, as I said, a lot of them really can be indoor living depending on your space and your training. But if you want top 10, there's dogs that are really, just naturally can fit in.
Yeah, can you just mention them for our listeners?
Maltese can naturally fit in. Japanese Chin can naturally fit in. West Highland can naturally fit in. Bichon Frise, Toy Poodle. Chinese Crested, surprisingly. And Papillons. Okay. The Havanese, the one that I have,